Niddah Daf Dalet. I apologize for not producing previous videos, the first two Daf and Niddah, due to Yontif and other technical difficulties. However, today's Daf contains many of the halachas that we learned in Daf Beis and Daf Gimel. We're discussing a sugya of a person that has a very large box, and he put fruit into one corner, and when he removed the fruit, he noticed that in the other corner there was a dead sheretz. The question is, was the sheretz there from the time that the fruit was there, or perhaps the sheretz entered the box at a later stage? If the sheretz was there from the beginning, the sheretz is an avatuma, which touches the box turns into a rishon l'tuma, the box touches the fruit, creating a sheni l'tuma. Or perhaps no, the sheretz came in afterwards. Shammai admits to Hillel that in such a case the fruit is tamei. We have to assume that the sheretz was there from the time that the fruit entered the box. The question is, then how is it possible that an Amoira Chizkiah argues on Tanoim, Shammai and Hillel? Says the Gemara, he's not arguing with Shammai and Hillel. He's discussing a completely different case. And there are four options that the Gemara brings why his case is different. Option number one is, the Chizkiah was talking about a case where the box didn't contain a bottom, but it contained a rim, where Shammai is talking about a typical box that has a bottom. And if it has a bottom, it makes sense that the sheretz came in and stayed there. He's there for a while. Chizkiah is talking about a case where it doesn't make sense that the sheretz was there for a while, because if he emptied out his box, his barrel, he used it sideways, let's say, and he emptied out all the fruit, then the sheretz would tumble out together with the fruit. Why is the sheretz there at the end? Rabbi Yochanan would say, no, since it has a rim, it's possible that the sheretz remained inside the barrel. The fruit, which is rounder, tumbled out. The sheretz remained inside. Or it's possible that Chizkiah was talking about a case where the box was checked beforehand and there were no sheratzim in there. Therefore, the box has a status of cheskas tahara. And therefore, even though you find the sheretz there later on, there's a chazaka that it's tahar. Where Shammai was talking about an unchecked box. Now, a woman, her dam is like an unchecked box. Or perhaps Shammai is talking about a box that's open, and it makes sense that a sheretz fell in there, where Chizkiah is talking about a closed box. If it's closed, it's the reason why Rabbi Yochanan says that it's tamei, because once in a while he opens up the box to put things in, take things out, and it's possible that a sheretz snuck in at that time. A woman, her dam, since she produces dam all the time, is considered like an open box. Or, finally, the fourth pshat, it's possible that Chizkiah is talking about a case where the box ended up in a different place than where it started out. And Chizkiah holds that any time Tumah moves, we have to restart the process and assume what we know today. And if we find the sheretz today, we assume that it came after you moved the box, not before. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, we assume that it was there from the beginning, even from the first place, and the Tumah moves. Now the Gemara wants to bring a few cases that we see this concept that if Tumah moves or changes status, as we're going to explain, perhaps the Tumah remains in its status as is, in its new status. For instance, if a person touches his friend in the middle of the night and he doesn't get a response, and in the morning he wakes up and finds that his friend is dead. When did his friend die? His friend died in the middle of the night, and therefore he is tamei because he touched his friend. Or perhaps he's tar because his friend died at a later time. Chacham say that we base the tumah on where you find it and how you find it. So since he found his friend in the morning, we have to assume that's when he became tamei, that's when he died. Another case, you have a needle that's tamei, and it could give over tumah to fruit. The needle now is rusted. When did it become rusty? Did it become rusty before it touched the fruit or after? When did it break? Before or after? Same thing with a dead sheretz that right now is burnt to a crisp. So right now it doesn't transmit tumah, but at one point it did. When did it burn to a crisp? Before it touched the fruit or after? So the halacha is that we view the sheretz, the needle, the cloth, whatever it is, at the time that we find it. That's how we view it. So right now it's rusty, right now it's burnt, so there is no tumah. What about there's a case of a loaf of bread that's on a shelf, that's on a slant. Below the shelf, there's a beged that has a weakened tumah. And we find the bread past that beged. The only way it could fall off the shelf is if it falls directly down onto the floor and tumbles off the beged onto the other part of the floor. And if so, the bread became tamei. However, we find it in a place of tahara, not on tumah, even though logically it makes sense that it was tamei because it touched the beged, and the halach is that it's tar. The explanation is because we could assume that perhaps another person who didn't want his bread to tumble off the shelf, he removed it and placed it nicely on the floor. Or we could explain that the clothing on the floor is a weakened tumah, not of ziva, but rather it's weak, that it has a tumah d'Rabbanan in it. And therefore, it's not enough to create a tumah on the loaf of bread, as the Gemara describes that piece of clothing as a madaf, like a lashon of ala nidaf, of a leaf that rustles in the wind, creates a sound. The Klal Yisrael, like Baruch said, would be scared of a leaf, the sound of a leaf, meaning even a minute noise, and in our case, minute tumah, just a tumah d'Rabbanan. The Mishnah says, and this is going back to Daf Beis, a woman who sees dam, according to Shammai, is only tamei for taharos, when she touches food from that point on. According to Hillel, she's tamei all the way back to the time before when she checked herself. So even if she checked herself 2 months ago, everything from that time until now is tamei. And according to Chachamim, they say no. Hillel is too machmir and Shammai is too mekel. They go back 24 hours. What's the reason? So initially Rabbah, as a joke, so to speak, told Abaye that the reason is because a woman could feel when her dam comes out. And therefore, if she didn't feel, we have to assume that she's not tameh, only right now. So Abaye asked him, well, then why do you go back 24 hours? It should only be from this point on. And to that, the Gemara says he was just testing Abaye. But what is the real reason? The real reason, says the Gemara, is because Chacham instituted takana that a woman who deals with taharos, with fruit, she should check herself once in the morning, once in the evening. When she checks herself in the morning, she's saying that everything she did in the last 12 hours is tar. A woman who doesn't check herself, she gets penalized, she gets a knas, one aina. An aina is either a night or a day. And it's possible that if a woman checks herself, if she's penalized, she actually, by going back 24 hours, she's penalized 3 ainas. Because let's say she checked herself in the afternoon, she goes back all the way the entire night before and the whole day before, and that's 3 periods of time. And the reason why Chacham did it is because Chachamim didn't want to give a shear to and say that every woman has a different shear. They gave one shear, it's 24 hours for everybody. Another reason is that somebody that sins shouldn't benefit, and that is that if we say you just go back one period of time, so what if a woman checks herself 1 hour into the day, then she goes back one period of time for a total of 13 hours. Whereas if a woman who does what she's supposed to do, and she checked herself, let's say, first thing in the morning, so she would have to go back the entire night as well. She goes back 12 hours because now she checked herself, so anyway she goes back 12. And in addition to that, another 12, now she would be penalized 24 hours. And this is a woman that did what she's supposed to do, and the woman who sinned only gets 13 hours. That's not fair, so therefore they instituted that everybody gets a 24-hour period off. Have a wonderful day.